Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, zeroing in on key issues in MSP security. My name is Victoria Pavlova, editor at CRN UK. MSPs play a crucial role in the technology landscape, managing and securing the IT infrastructure of companies across the globe. Handling business-critical responsibilities from data storage and network management to hardware and operational efficiencies, companies of all sizes rely on managed service providers every single day for their business security and continuity. The downside of this is that their role also makes MSPs prime targets for cybercriminals, with one breach risking a backdoor into multiple other environments. Not only can this heavily multiply the damage dealt by a single attack, but it can also irreparably damage the reputation of the affected service provider. So how secure do MSPs think they are? How prepared are they for their next cyber attack, which realistically is a matter of when, not if? And what tools or response plans do some of the biggest MSPs have in place to protect themselves and their clients? In this webinar featuring bespoke research from CRN, we will be exploring all of these questions and more. So without further ado, please welcome Jim Wagner, VP of Product Management at Enable, and my colleague Matt Harris, Content Strategist at CRN UK, to discuss this very topic. Welcome, guys. Should we do a brief round of introductions?
Absolutely, and thank you, Victoria. So hopefully, let's see if I go first. Hi, I'm Jim Wagner, VP, as mentioned by Victoria, VP Product Management here at Enable. My focus is on the Adlumin platform, which is XDR platform, as well as the managed services we offer our customers, our managed detection and response. So good that you invited me here. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, and my name's Matt Harris. I've been a journalist and content strategist in the IT space for a little under a decade now, and yeah, really looking forward to this conversation.
Absolutely, very exciting. Before we get started, I would like to highlight the Q&A box to our viewers. It allows you, as the name suggests, to submit a question to our panel. We'll get around to answering these questions throughout each set of findings, so please do get them in. Right, Matt, shall we go over the first set of research findings?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Vic. So yeah, as we mentioned, we surveyed IT and security professionals with a range of seniority levels from MSPs. We're going to break the research today into three sets of findings. So the first set of findings will explore general security posture and maturity as well. The second set of findings will dig deeper into incident preparedness and response. And our third set of findings will look at the biggest challenges that MSPs are currently facing, as well as what they're looking to invest in over the next 12 months and beyond. So looking at the first set of results here, and the first question that we asked respondents was, how mature are your security operations? So as you can see here, what we found was just over a third of those surveyed reported having a fully mature security operation, one which is strategically aligned with their business goals. We also found that 10% of those surveyed do not have an established security operation or strategy at all. Moving on to the next question, we found that 80% of those surveyed have 24/7 coverage in place. That's either from outsourced coverage or indeed an in-house team. And we also found that 10% of companies only monitor operations within business hours. How confident are you in identifying and containing threats? So we found that 44% reported being confident in detecting common threats, but actually struggling with those more advanced ones. And I think the last question for these set of findings, does your organization outsource any security operations center functions? And we found that around over half of those surveyed reported handling all of their SOC functions in-house. 13% fully outsource their SOC, and 8% have no formal SOC function. And we've got one more here for the first set. How would you evaluate your organization's overall security readiness? What we found was all organizations reported having good or very good overall readiness, and no one said that theirs was poor or very poor, which is good to see.
That's an impressive level of confidence from the respondents. Thank you, Matt. Although interesting that with some humility, only a third of respondents would rate their security operations as fully mature. That's some sober thinking there. So to delve into the qualitative side a little bit, Jim, what do you think are some of the key strategies MSPs are employing to respond to the need for 24/7 security monitoring?
It's interesting was so excellent question. Is what I'm seeing is like, to be honest, is when the concerns that we get for 24/7 is just the sheer number of people that are required um, to be online, to be available for any of the partners or their clients. So if you think about it, your 24/7 response means you always have someone up and running all through the weekends. It's usually 2 to 3 people per shift. You've got your 3 shifts per day, and then you've got, all through the weekend, although it lightens up a little bit during the weekends. But all through the week lightens up on the weekends. What I see that was being leveraged today is not only the human, the right tools to make sure that you've got the right coverage, but we're seeing the trend in AI taking up the load, trying to automate as much as possible. So a combination. So with us, what we do here at Lumen is to make sure that we do have people that can respond all around, but really leveraging off the AI to take that ingestion and response.
That's really impressive. And we are 5 minutes in before the first mention of AI cropped up. So right on target, I think.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Right. So, despite 10% of respondents admitting that they lack established security operations and 5%, healthy numbers, reporting that they have no formal SOC, all rated their overall security preparedness as good or very good. So that's a high level of confidence.
Can we
How
actually
would
go,
you?
Victoria, can we go back to that slide and show that for this webinar?
Matt, would you mind? I think you're in control of the slides, if I'm not mistaken.
Ooh, I'm not sure. Which question was that? The
Just
overall security readiness.
what are your thoughts on the poor, very poor at the 0% on the response? So good and very good. I found this surprising. Um, as a result, I mean, this is really great news, but I'm wondering if those who are listening, if you are listening, do you feel the same way? If any comments or questions can go in, because I found this to be very surprising. 42% on very good, 58% on good. This is like, hey, there's no need for security. We have it covered. And that's just the opposite of what we see is we have a large partner base here at Enable, and we're always finding the questions and seeing where the learning, we need to help them with the learning. We need to help them in understanding their security posture. And from this result, it looks like, hey, there's no business here.
Well, whilst we wait for the audience to submit their thoughts on the matter, I was actually going to throw that exact same question to you, Jim. So,
Oh, excellent.
high
Go
level
ahead.
of confidence, how would you rate the level of preparedness against emerging threats based on what you're seeing out there in the market?
I would say what we're seeing is it's more like a third is ready. You've got your elite. You know, like we're always prepared. We're always monitoring, but we're also working with our partners who leveraging off of the service, and most of them are not prepared. It's struggling to understand the threats that are out there. What is topical today? What is targeting the SMB? Big rise of ransomware, of course, and most people are thinking about ransomware on how to protect themselves. Like I did a survey in front of our partners, and I asked them, "How many of you have been impacted by ransomware?" In the past, it'd be like a couple of the respondents, but this time it was like more than half the room. It was almost 3/4 of the room raised their hand to say, "Yes, we've been hit by ransomware." And more importantly, I asked them the question of, "How many of you have paid the fine?" And half of them had paid the fine, which is just unusual. But the questions that I get asked are just the routine ones. How do I protect myself? How do I make sure I'm covered? How do I keep track of the threat landscape? And do they have a disaster recovery? And more often than not, no, that's where they need our help them map that out.
Right. Interesting. So would you say that the kind of the level of preparedness varies depending on which threat you're talking about, and how specific you get?
I think that it's going to be the level of preparedness for an attack. It's what also that they mean by it. It's like, are you prepared for an attacker to have been in your environment for days, weeks, months, maybe even longer, and you're not being
Mhm.
aware of it? Are you prepared for them to take down your system services or to steal your client data? I don't think anyone can prepare for that effectively, because it's something that you're going to have to do all the time, or make sure someone's doing it all the time for you.
Absolutely. And then there is the adage of it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I noticed that
Yeah,
with
just like
your
you said in the
direct
beginning.
exactly. I noticed when you ask the question so directly, there's a slight reticence maybe from the audience to kind of engage on that one. But so we'll keep going. Let's move on to our next set of to the second set of findings. Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Vic. And yeah, these actually lead quite nicely into what Jim was talking about there. So we actually asked our respondents as well whether they'd been hit with a cyber attack in the last year. We found 16% of our respondents had. And we also found that when asked about whether their clients had been hit by a cyber attack, around 2/3 said that they had a client who had. So quite a big gap there. Moving on, we asked about whether or not they had a incident response plan in place. So just looking at these numbers here generally, what we found was almost everyone surveyed had an incident response plan in place, but only around a quarter, or in fact almost a quarter, rarely test or actually update that plan. On to the next slide. Yeah, so we asked what tools or response plans do our respondents have in place. And we found that 92% of those surveyed have both antivirus and anti-malware solutions and backup disaster recovery solutions. 20% of respondents do not have a security awareness training program. And we also found that 4 in 5 MSPs surveyed reported having a EDR solution in place, and around 2/3 have a CM or MDR in place as well. Moving on. So of those surveyed, around half typically detect and respond to security breaches within an hour. And 95% of those surveyed typically detect and respond to security breaches within 24 hours.
Mm.
And finally, for this section, I think we've got a few more. On a scale of 1 to 10, we asked our respondents how prepared they felt they were for a cyber attack. And as you can see here, around half of those surveyed kind of placed themselves in that 8 out of 10, 10 out of 10 category in terms of cyber attack preparedness. 7 out of 10 of 7% of respondents gave their cyber attack preparedness a perfect score, and 1 in 5 companies rate it at a 6 out of 10 or worse. We also asked how login and account activity was typically monitored across the organizations of MSPs. So we found that all of those MSPs surveyed reported monitoring their login activity with either fully automated or semi-automated tools. Our research also showed that semi-automated activity monitoring was roughly twice as popular as fully automated monitoring. And then we asked, what is your organization's threshold for automatically disabling inactive accounts? And we found that disabling inactive accounts automatically in 30 days or less was the most common practice among the MSPs that we surveyed. 28% of those surveyed can take upwards of 60 days to disable inactive accounts. And
Wow.
a low percentage, around 6%, do not actually automate or do not automatically disable those inactive accounts.
Wow, that's those are some pretty staggering stats. Let's go in order. So 16% of MSPs reported facing a cyber attack over the past year. And roughly 2/3 said that their clients had faced a cyber attack over the past year. So there's some reassuring takeaways in there. MSPs at least are doing better on the cyber attack front, or at least are getting targeted less. We don't know what that's attributed to. And then everyone said that they had a cyber incident response plan in place, but almost a quarter rarely test or update this plan. What are some of the key pieces, in your opinion, Jim, of a thorough incident response plan, first of all?
Yeah, for having a thorough plan, the first thing you need to do is get an assessment of where you are today. So first off, you need to know, so let's say for our MSPs looking at their clients, do they know their clients? Do they know all of their devices, their endpoints? Are they all protected? Do they have the latest and greatest? So are they patched and protected? then they need to have a list of, so you check your configurations, make sure they're all matching, make sure if there is an attack for a response plan, you know who to contact and how to respond. If there's an attack, how are your customers going to get access to you? Once they get access to you, then what means, usually there's a, let's call it a hotline or a war room where they get together and they can discuss this. And then who's the lead manager who's in charge of this incident? How do they respond and get together? And then the frequency of response on how critical is a severity 1, making sure you have a particular response time and an SLA or an SLO at least, and then, or if it's severity 2 and whatnot, what do you need to do? And then how often you need to brief everyone. And then if some disaster happens, how do you recover? Which I did like on one of the responses of having a backup. It's something we're always recommending to our customers with our Cove solution, but having a backup, quite often, they're not backing up or not backing up frequently enough. Then I think some of the other things for a proper response plan would be, like, we do tabletop exercises with our partners, with our customers. You run through that test, you do it live, you do it multiple times, and you look for those failure conditions that you can map it. And then make sure you have this all documented and run through again. So those are some of the few things for having a proper response plan.
Fantastic. And then a quarter of respondents said that they do not regularly test or update their plan. How does that resonate with what you're seeing? How would you what would you advise those organizations?
Yeah, I think for an MSP, that number would make sense. If they are taking security seriously for their clients, then, can't really argue with that number, but that just means they're at risk. So client lists have changed, devices have changed, technology may have changed. And so they're at risk. So they should routinely update. I mean, you want to do it every quarter, you want to do it every or 6 months or a year, but do it frequently to make sure it's still relevant.
Absolutely. To pick out a slightly more positive number, 7% of MSPs gave their cybersecurity preparedness a perfect score. How
That's
does this
great.
match up with well, what do we even consider perfect cyber preparedness, and how does this match up with what you're seeing?
I, I don't know if there's such a thing. I would never answer. I've been doing this for like more than 2 decades. I don't know if anyone has ever said we had a perfect score, because there's always something that you have to learn from. There's always something that you may have forgotten, or is no longer routine as practicing this. Because I think that it's not something you can forget, stick it into a file drawer or into a folder on your desktop and not go back and look at it. So it's always something that you need to really ensure. For anyone that actually said 100%, I would probe them a little bit to see what is it they're not thinking about. So this doesn't match with what I'm seeing. We've got, I forget what our numbers are for our partners that are using our MDR services. So we've got thousands and thousands of partners that we're protecting, and you can always see, even for ourselves, there's more for us to learn.
So you've never, or not recently at least, sat down with a client, looked at their incident response plan, looked at their cyber posture and said, done, you're good, you're fine.
I have never in my life sat down with a partner and said, you know what, I can't think of one thing to add. Because they're always, to be honest, what it's usually been is having to do with the backup. I mean, that's the one that I like, that it's key, is when I look at security companies, when they talk about having a comprehensive response, so managed detection and response, quite often their response isn't the resiliency, making sure that the business stays up and running. There was an incident just the other day, which we experienced with a partner, where their backups were not running every day. And the snapshot where they could restore within the last 15 minutes, they were like, oh, wow, we didn't even look at our backups. It was maybe run a month ago, but we hadn't tested it. So just monthly, they would do a backup. That means a month worth of data loss. So yeah, I mean, definitely have to always practice it from a full comprehensive end-to-end scenario.
Wow, slap on the wrist there. Okay, everyone surveyed reported monitoring their login and account activity as part of their SOC routine, and the majority do this through semi-automated tools. Why is this so important, and how does it compare with using AI or CM-driven alerts?
No, I think in general, what we're seeing. So we did a SOC report not too long ago where we saw that a little bit more than half of the detections or half of the attacks or cyber attacks are coming in through identity. And that makes sense because going after an endpoint, you can compromise an environment, you can attempt to get access, but you're trying to execute code. But once you compromise an identity, once you get someone's credentials, then everything they have access, you now have access to. And so in going through O365 or whatever solution you're using for identity, it makes sense to attack that. And so using manual inspection makes sense, of course, but that's where AI comes into play. We delivered a solution not too long ago called breach prevention for Microsoft 365. And it is just a service for customers who want to see if they're getting impacted by identity attacks. And so very easy to use, very, very high volume, say low cost service, and extremely effective. So identity is the way threat actors go. So got to do something there.
Interesting. And I recently found out that very few SOC analysts are actually trained in identity management, which is fascinating.
Interesting. That is interesting because that was the first thing. So I did a review with my SOC analyst today. She was giving me a tutorial, and that's one of the first things that she did. She walked through the identity. She looked at the user. She looked at the intra ID. She looked at the domain, and she was looking for a search of did this identity log into any system infrequently. So like you and I log into our desktop, but if we log into another workstation once or twice, that seems a little weird. And so that's how she was
Mhm.
able to identify if there's a threat actor there. So
Well, it sounds like you've got a good one there. Right. As we move through these questions, just another reminder to submit your own questions via the appropriately named questions tab, and we will take them throughout. So the research showed that all MSPs regularly review login or account activity as part of their SOC routine. 47% of respondents noted locking out dormant accounts within 30 days of inactivity. How effective is this at preventing identity-based attacks? And is there anything else MSPs can do to further improve?
so that is so like on our dashboard. So the Lemon dashboard, that's one of the first things we look at. Are there any passwords that are stale, meaning they've been used and haven't been changed in 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, or whatever? The other one is having to do with stale accounts. Common behavior of threat actors would be to introduce a new account, create it, and then leave. And then sometimes later, they may come back in 3 months, 6 months, a year, and leverage off that account, which you've ignored. So you're at risk. I can see it's a balance. I think we had mentioned it, security versus availability, and the IT services. But that is something you absolutely need to take a look at and understand. Do I really need this account? That would be the first ones that I flag.
Fantastic. I think that was all of my questions for this set of findings, unless you wanted to pick out anything else, Jim.
I don't remember. There's a few things, but if we don't want to go back on slides, but I really do like this survey that you've done and some of the responses here. So we can go on.
Super, super useful data. Fantastic. Okay, and in that case, Matt, over to you for the third set of findings.
Yep, thank you both. So in the third set of findings, we looked at some challenges, investment priorities, and of course, looking towards the future as well. So our first question was actually just asking the MSPs what the biggest challenges were that they were currently facing. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the growing number and complexity of security threats was named as the biggest challenge by far. And then coming in at second place was a growing shortage of IT talent. Growing customer demands at 22% and ensuring compliance at 19% were also listed top challenges here as well. And again, perhaps surprisingly, managing security for remote workforces and cloud security were among the challenges least highlighted by the MSPs that we surveyed.
That makes sense. The world has changed.
Yeah. And then we asked our respondents how often did they enforce MFA for their client systems. So similar to what you guys were talking about, just 36% enforce MFA for their client systems by default, and 8% of MSPs rarely or never enforce multi-factor authentication for their client systems. We also looked at the tech and service areas that our MSPs are looking to invest in most heavily over the next year or so. We saw that half of MSPs surveyed said that they were planning to invest in AI and automation in some capacity for cybersecurity over the next year. SOC and MDR services, as well as cloud security tools, were also among the solutions favored by MSPs in terms of their investment plans. And 6% rather of MSPs said that they were not planning to invest anything in cybersecurity over the next year.
Presumably not cyber-focused MSPs there. Right. So the biggest challenge by far is the number and complexity of emerging threats. Would you be able to single out some of the threats that MSPs or MSSPs should be particularly concerned about? And how does Enable work with partners to kind of keep them on top of the emerging threat landscape?
Yeah, I think that the main thing, the question to ask isn't necessarily the growing number and complexity of security threats, because that is just far-reaching and constantly growing, evolving, especially with AI being used in the threatscape. But it's really the threats that are important to them or targeted towards them. With MSPs, what we see is, in general, MSPs, because they're responsible for clients, are more mature than their clients. But as an industry, they do the technology hits enterprise first. So what we've seen, it hits the enterprise in the US first, and then starts to go around the world in the different geos and the different segments of customers. So as an industry, I do see that the smaller customers, the technology comes later, and so they're not quite as mature in the technology. And so threat actors know this. They know that at an enterprise level, they may have 100 individuals in a security operations center that are protecting the environment, responsible for security, responding to security, keep it up and running. But when they look at an MSP, it might be one person at the MSP responsible for security, and he or she is also the business owner. And it may mean that the security controls aren't in place, there isn't preparation, there isn't a response plan, that maybe the software isn't patched. And so threat actors will target them, and they'll do it through the easiest way that they can. And that would be, going after sending emails and phishing scams, always at risk of clicking on links, getting the smishing attacks, SMS messaging attacks. Like I just got a request today and an offer for a job working for, Amazon, making $50 to $500 an hour for only an hour of my time, a fake message. And that's what they need to watch out for on the threatscape, is where are their employees being targeted? Where are their clients being targeted? Is it through texting? Is it through still website redirection? Is it through email and trying to get them and fooling them into clicking on these links? So getting, we offer a lot of intelligence reports. We offer briefings to our customers to make sure they're aware of where they need to be protected. We offer advice of the securities that they need to change. So we've got security awareness that we offer. We've got pen testing services. We've got vulnerability detection and patching that will help mitigate and reduce the risk that our clients face, in addition to just the overall briefing and education.
Amazing. So if you're a smaller partner or indeed taking care of SMEs, be on your guard. It's interesting that you mentioned the phishing attack with a job offer.
Did you get hit? Did you get hit?
The running joke is that, how do you know the economy isn't doing well? Well, 5 years ago, I used to get phishing attacks saying they'll give me money. Now they say they'll give me a job.
It's like
right.
LinkedIn profiles. One thing to watch out would be LinkedIn profiles. So LinkedIn does a great job of filtering through, ensuring that the people contacting you are legit, but also there's still the risk of the social engineering, the social media of profiles appearing that are just not legit.
Yeah, definitely. The attack surface just keeps on growing.
It does.
A third or almost a third of MSPs listed a shortage of IT talent as one of their biggest
Yeah.
challenges. This is not surprising, I'm sure, to you, Jim. It's not surprising to us. We're consistently seeing across a lot of the research we conduct and businesses we speak to that talent remains an issue. Why is it such a problem right now? And are there any actions that MSPs can take outside of outsourcing workloads?
Well, I think that for us and what we see is it has been a challenge. And when there is a challenge, technology may evolve to help take care of that. I do see that going back to the word we use in the first 5 minutes. That's why AI, I think AI really is coming into fruition when it comes to security operations. Just knowing if you look at an end-to-end workflow of having a technology where you don't have to do it yourself, whether it's the ingestion of telemetry and creating detections, having AI assist there so that humans don't have to do it. Whether it's doing the investigation and hunting of attacks, creating detections, doing responses, even writing up the report that is usually labor intensive. All of these can be enhanced by AI. And I think that's going to make up for the shortage. You're going to have your smart people still doing smart tasks, but you're going to have those routine tasks being taken over by AI, and then the smart tasks will also be taken. So I think that's what's going to help us in this world where shortage of IT talent or shortage of security talent has just been growing, and that's a gap filling with humans. I don't think we're ever going to be able to do. Victoria,
I'm
you
sorry.
went on mute. All
You'd
right.
think that 5 years after the pandemic, I would have learned, but no, here we are. No, that's very encouraging to hear, from a human perspective. So with this talent
We're
shortage in
still
mind,
needed.
yeah, definitely. With this talent shortage in mind, how is that impacting the service provider to client relationship, in your opinion, if at all?
I'm sorry, ask that question again. So the lack of IT. So what it does for companies, it makes them extremely dependent upon their MSP. They
Mhm.
know when it comes to security, they need a trusted source, just like an MSP or our clients use us as a trusted source. So it becomes a natural extension of their how they just do business is dependent on people who can do things and do things for them very quickly. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, exactly. Um, so MSP is becoming even more important, and even more
Absolutely. You see that
irreplaceable.
their clients, they're like, "Listen, I don't know anything about security. What should I
Mhm.
do?" And they turn over to the MSP and they're like, "Can you help me?" And we're seeing what our MSPs, what our partners, our clients will tell us is that's where they see some huge growth or huge interest in their customers. They the interest and the willingness to not just do anti-malware protection, but to take that next step and become more proactive is growing. And then being that trusted source. And that's why our partners are coming to us. They're like, okay, you guys know more about it, or you know more about it at Lumen than we do. Help us. Do it for us. Uh, help train us to do it ourselves, or let's do it together as a partner, which is your three paradigms. So self-managed, co-managed, or hand over the outsourcing or management to us.
Amazing. Right. So before we go into our final few questions, I think we have an audience poll that we might want to launch right about now. Right. I'm getting the ping that the poll is now live. So please do feel free to submit your responses, as well as any questions that you have for Jim or indeed Matt. Right. So over half of MSPs surveyed said they were planning to invest in AI and automation for cybersecurity over the next 12 months. Where do you see those investments going, Jim? What are they? What do the kind of leading AI investments in cyber look like at the moment, and how is that set to change in the era that we seem to be entering, which is agentic AI?
Yes, the agentic AI or decision-making AI that does it for you, especially a big buzzword that's coming up. The uh, I would say on a survey like this, if you're thinking about, hey, some point in time, let me think about doing AI or leveraging AI. I think that You need to do it now. Everyone needs to do it now. Get comfortable with it. Go to your free AI tools online. I go to Chat GPT. We also have Copilot within Teams. We have AI within our products, but learn a little bit about it. Within just a couple hours of tutorials, you can know enough, and then as you understand how it would help you be more effective as a business owner, as an MSP, then look to see how it can be more effective for your day-to-day operations, whether you can use it as in writing a investigative report. Like we have automated reports that are AI driven. You can use a natural language to ask questions and do hunting. You can use AI models for detection. All these things that we're doing today. Like agentic AI, or being part of the decision making when it comes to the different agents that are out there. That's becoming extremely impressive, as well as the coordination and turning over some of the decision making over to the automated systems or the personas. So absolutely think it's effective. It's going to increase the response time. It's going to increase the coverage for detections. It's going to allow you to, like we can do, is get a detection, mean time to respond, right? From detection through to isolation and understanding of an attack, especially when it comes to ransomware, doing lateral movement. You can do this within minutes as opposed to hours, days, or never. So you can absolutely prevent a compromise. So if you don't have AI or you're not into it yourself, then come to those who do, like we do here at Adlumin.
Amazing. So beyond start using it sooner rather than later, do you have any advice for MSPs looking to incorporate it into their security strategy in terms of preparedness, data wrangling, or really anything else that you can think of?
I think I went through that. I'm not sure if there was anything else that I could recommend. Usually, if you can afford to hire a data scientist group like we can, you can get started on it. But it really is starting to ask your security professionals, how are you leveraging AI? What is it giving you? How can I interact with it? What can it do for me? So asking those basic fundamental questions.
Fantastic. I don't think we've got any questions coming in. And we've run through the findings. So, Jim, do you have any sort of thoughts in summary? Any sort of top 3 priorities for an MSSP looking to improve their cyber posture as of June 2025?
Yeah, it's never too late to get secure. Let's see, top advice that I would give right now. If you haven't done an assessment of your clients, do make sure that you do so. One of the top questions that we get is they'll say, well, how do you approach it for a client that is worried or concerned that it's too burdensome? And I like the proposal that we sent out to our partners. Is we said, hey, just meet with them and get an assessment. And instead of trying to solve all their problems on day one, really what you should do is give them a roadmap, give them a rating, call it silver, gold, platinum, or whatever tiers there are, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and then show them that's a journey. And then routinely every 3 months, meet with them and help them mature in that journey. And then you becoming that source of inspiration or source of security truth for them. You become the go-to person if they get attacked, if they're under attack. So first off, talk to your clients, get an assessment, and then meet routinely with them to measure that progress. And I think that would benefit all of us.
Absolutely. Lean on that communication with the client as much as possible,
Right.
and on that market awareness. Fantastic. Right. With that, I think that's a fantastic thought to close on. I'd like to thank all of the attendees for joining us today, for engaging with the content and the poll as well. Thank you, Matt, for the thorough set of research findings. And obviously, thank you, Jim, for your insight and time today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Victoria. And Matt, thank you so much for going through that survey with us.
No, it's all good. Yeah, it was a pleasure to listen to you both. So yeah, thank you.
And for everyone on the phone, here's the plug. Come to talk to us at Enable or Adlumin if you've got any questions. Just reach out. We are here to help.
Expertly executed plug. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.